What's going on, everybody? Andraki Namaskaram. My name is Prithvi Ganesh Mavuri. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Masalainurdosa presents Telugus. We have a really awesome episode today. A really great guest and somebody who I consider a friend of Masalainurdosa, somebody who has supported um, from the get-go. How are you, Jenny? Um, but uh, I'm excited to have him on today. It's Anil Sankaramanchi. He's a Telugu American actor. He's going to be on today to talk about his what Telugu identity means for him and how he's expressing it through his passion, which is cinema and film. And we'll delve into topics of identity and how exactly he got into what he's doing right now. But while we're still waiting for Anil and some other people to join, we have some announcements. Definitely some announcements. It's been a really amazing. I guess it's been, let's see, a little bit more of a month of me doing Masalainurdosa and Telugus, and the experience has just been phenomenal. Just meeting and interacting with so many cool people in all walks of life, all backgrounds, all ages, and I just wanted to thank everybody who is watching the content, engaging and interacting with my content on my page. I really want to say thank you so much, and I really appreciate each and every one of you. I've received so many kind words, so many words of encouragement, and people just reaching out and sharing their perspective, which has been such an incredible journey, a learning experience for me too, because I just this is so important that me being here today, speaking with you, creating this platform does not mean by any stretch of the means that I have it figured out. And one second. Um, can you guys hear me? Just give me a thumbs up, or if you can hear me better now. I guess I'm having some issues with my mic. I apologize. But we'll work on this. Anil seems to be joining us, and I will. And now, but yeah, like I was saying, I don't have it figured out, and but hey, Anil, what's up, man? How's
What's
it
going
going?
on, Chief?
How's it going? Thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank
Um,
you for having me.
yeah, definitely. But let me just finish my train of thought here.
Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, no, I was just saying this has just been like talking to so many incredible people in all walks of life, just learning and growing from them. I think that is what I hope to achieve from this platform. That's what's happening for me, hearing so many different perspectives. And today's perspective is Anil Sankaramanchi's. I am so happy um, um, to have you on here. I will consider you a dear friend of the show, of the platform,
Yeah.
because I remember reaching out to you probably like my first or at the end of my first week of starting this whole concept.
Yep.
And one of the things that Anil immediately said was that if you're going to give me this platform and talk to me, I want to add some value to you. And he has connected me to some incredible people, some incredible creatives, some people that I think I can call my own friends now that have just been great. Anil, thank you so much for everything that you've done, even though we may not be connecting regularly, but I really appreciate what you do. And
Not at all,
um,
man. I think,
yeah,
as much as being a friend of the show, I'm also a viewer. And
yeah,
so, being able to say, watching all these perspectives come out is refreshing for me because I though am Telugu, yes, but I'm also American. I'm a younger guy living in America. So finding the balance between the two is something that I strive for, and seeing how other people balance the two identities is really
Yeah.
important to me. So yeah, no, I would love to keep watching these episodes roll out, and you're doing a great job running the show, dude. Thank you so much for at least building the platform to begin with, so that we could
Yeah.
be here and have these conversations.
And definitely, and this platform's here for you anytime you ever want to come back. You just let me know. I'd love to continue to support you here, and follow your journey on here. We
Absolutely.
always,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, for sure. So a little bit about Anil Sankaramanchi. As you guys know, he is a Telugu American actor. Just I don't want to limit him there because he's so much more than that, and such an amazing creative. And you know what? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Anil?
All right. Well, like you said, I am a Telugu American actor. And people might be wondering, have you done any Telugu films? Because you claim to be Telugu. I actually had just started my adventure going into Telugu film industry space. So you guys will be hopefully hearing from me every now and then regarding all of those explorations. But I have been working in the Hollywood commercial TV the film space for roughly 9.5 years.
Yeah.
And that's been my greatest adventure to date, right? As a storyteller,
Mm-hmm.
whether I began telling stories through just prose when I was talking to friends, expressing myself through music or dance or anything like that, acting was the thing I fell in love with most because it was a very comprehensive way of telling stories. And
Yeah.
so I decided to pursue that in a more serious manner than just hobbyist when I was a junior in high school. And I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever looked back.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, um, we're definitely gonna delve into um that journey. I definitely have that, but being this is an episode of Telugu's, I definitely want to open with the question. And hearing your kind of story was really great to hear, and I want to share that too. But
Please.
um, what does Telugu identity mean for you?
Ooh, okay. So this is a broad question. Um,
Yeah.
I I come from a very conservative family, right? So we grew up around temples and listening to everything that airs on Bhakti TV. So the Telugu that
Yeah.
I'm accustomed to is
Hmm.
Chaganti Koteshwar Rao,
Yeah.
Garikpati Garu, and like all of the people that do discourses on sort of like Sanskrit and the Sanskrit language, prose, poems, and
Yeah.
all of the sacred texts. So
Hmm.
I have a more conservative approach to, Telugu vernacular. So the
Hmm.
movies I grew up on were Maya Bazar, Danavira Surakarna, all the NTR films.
Hmm.
And so the Puranic stories were the things that I grew up understanding.
Hmm.
So my Telugu identity starts with this classical version of Telugu that's almost merging conversational speaking and poetry almost, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so that's not the Telugu everybody speaks anymore, right? That's not
Yeah.
commonplace. That's not it. So when I first started speaking Telugu, it was more catered towards that, you know, older type of Telugu. Classic Telugu is kind of the way I describe it.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was almost exclusively for talking about, religious texts, philosophical texts, doing theater, right?
Hmm.
Those types of elements were my understanding of Telugu culture. And then like English was the, hey, what's going on, bro? Um, type of conversation. So Telugu identity has since from that, when I was a youngin, evolved into this is a cultural meeting place of, it's not just the language, right? It's the behaviors, it's the things we celebrate, the reasons we celebrate them, right? Coming
Yeah.
of age celebrations, we have our own version of the quinceañera. So there are these elements to Telugu culture that goes far beyond just the language, and that identity to me is the common like meeting ground for all of us.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's been a lot of great discussions recently as to like, how identity has these multiple facets: linguistic identity, cultural and traditional identity versus like maybe even religious identity. And I think it's really important for us as Telugu Americans, just South Asian Americans, to recognize those multiple facets. That there's not just one way to approach it, and you broke that down very nicely.
Thank
Um,
you.
so that's so, and also coming from your perspective, it's really I guess like I don't hear a lot of people talk about their background being as like so classical anymore, like
Right.
And like especially from a cinema standpoint, I think from I always considered what myself being one of the few people who considered like, oh, I'm watching an old Telugu movie today, that to actually be old, like, black and white sort
Yeah.
of,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
there's so Gundamakada, Misama, like there's so many
Right.
beautiful stories told there. But so coming from that sort of background, how do you think that what do you what role does that have in terms of like your acting and your storytelling abilities now? Like, how does that help or fuel you having that
Okay.
unique sort of classical background?
So that's a great question. Um, I don't know if anybody's watched like the entirety of Ram Gopal Varma's Lakshmi NTR, right?
Oh,
And then the other half going back to the early days of NTR, um, getting into the early part of his career. They talk about how dedicated he was to innovating storytelling, right?
mm,
So when I first watched all of those films, right, for the first time, I was
mm-hmm,
just watching them for the sake of the narrative that was being told, right, the story quality.
yeah,
Then I started watching as an educational video, right?
mm-hmm,
What were the technologies at the time that created the innovation level of this particular piece? Why
mm,
is it so immortal? Why do people continually keep watching it, right?
mm-hmm,
Senior NTR's performances were always something that attracted me, and I was like, I want to be able to emulate that in my performances. But then
mm-hmm,
as a student of film, right,
yeah,
I could see the limitations with the tools that they had and the technologies that they had, yet how he was able to guide the director or the cinematographers at the time being able to pitch an idea of like, hey, we could do this, but it's going to take a lot more effort than is typically found in the industry. And Senior NTR would be like, sure, let's go for it. Let's do it. If it's for pushing that envelope of cinema forward, let's go for it.
yeah,
And I think that is an MO that I continually want to adopt
mm,
to then say, okay, now we're living in 2020 where you could get a 4K resolution camera for $1,500.
yeah,
Let's see what we can do to like push that limit. Like, right, we have all this image information. What are we
mm-hmm,
going to do with it? Right, these are now our new tools and limitations. How do we innovate within that? Right,
mm-hmm,
and the people that do those technical levels of innovation connect
mm-hmm,
the story to the audience a little bit more. And a little bit earlier on in the show, you had an interview with Deepak Reddy, who, for his short Manasanamaha, had just really pushed the technical innovations
yeah,
to the new golden standard, right? So
yeah,
I that is what I live for. I live for the people that who are involving themselves in the cinematic space,
yeah,
but not just to do, oh, okay, I can get a beautiful image. It's more
mm-hmm,
about how can we experiment? How can we create something new or fresh?
mm-hmm. That's so interesting that you bring that up. And like, what role, and you said senior NTR also did this. I guess like from a consumer of cinema, and I'm sorry if this is an ignorant question, but like what role, how does an actor, what does his role in like the innovation of cinema? Like,
Uh-huh.
do you feel like you get a roadblock when like you're telling the people behind the lens to like be like, oh, maybe we can try this? Like, how does that work out?
I so there's obviously people that specialize, right? So like I've spent more than 5 years dedicating my life to learning how to act, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if a person comes to me and says, "Hey, I need help with possibly creating a little bit more characterization in this performance," cool. We can have that conversation. If I'm working and collaborating with my peers, like my friends who are in, behind the lens or doing something on crew, then I could
Mm-hmm.
like pitch an idea to them because comfort level, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But if I'm on a professional set, I do my job, right?
Mm,
And if they open that conversation to, hey, do you guys have any ideas? What are y'all thinking? We got what we needed, right? We got the
mm-hmm.
cake. Let's just play. Let's see what we can do. Then yeah, we will definitely just
Yeah.
think as creatively as we can, no hold bars, right? Because we already have our initial take that we wanted for the edit. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but there's definitely times where we just dedicate a whole 25, 30 minutes to just let's see how interesting we can get the shot.
Nice. Okay. You also talked about some of the movies that have kind of shaped you growing up. You threw some names out there.
Right.
Was there a movie? I mean, you obviously spoke about the actor, Senior
Right.
NTR. Was there a movie or a director that has left a lasting impression on you that essentially kind of motivated you to be like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to pursue.
Yes. So I brought this movie up in multiple interviews that I've been in. Thankfully, I
Mm,
was able to do that. Danavira Surakarna, the
mm,
Emantivi monologue that
mm-hmm,
Senior NTR does, was the first thing in cinema I fell in love with, period.
mm,
Right? Then again, I think this was 2005. I could be wrong on the year. But in the Telugu film Yamadonga,
mm,
Junior NTR does an homage to his grandfather's original monologue where he does one of the
mm-hmm.
same sort of timbre and cadence.
Yeah.
That revitalized my want to do something to that scale because my weakest asset as an actor when I first started out was I could not memorize more than about a sentence and a half of dialogue.
Mm,
And I was like, I want to do a monologue. I want to do a long two-pager, and I want to see where that goes.
yeah.
So that I think those two monologues
Yeah.
were kind of what I held on to as like this is a dream, this is a goal, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I haven't done anything quite that scale on camera yet. I've done practices, right? Like my monologuing capabilities have gotten better, but
Yeah.
I haven't found a project that requires me to do like a whole 2.5 page monologue.
Okay. Danavira Surakarna. I don't think I've seen that one. I've seen bits and pieces, but I've heard the monologue in Yamadonga.
Yeah,
Nice. Okay.
yeah, it's a
All right.
lot like that.
Okay. Very cool. All right. So, what was it like to pursue acting in Hollywood as a Telugu American? Like,
Ooh.
what sort of um, perspectives did you encounter? What sort of hurdles?
So I started at a time that was really interesting because Hollywood hadn't discovered this amount of diversity yet. Like they weren't looking for
Yeah,
South Asian stories, let alone South Asian artists, let alone South Asian characters. And
sure.
I think as the years have progressed, right, we've gotten shows like let's leave Slumdog Millionaire in 2009, but think about the things that have come up recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the last couple of years, we've gotten shows like Made in Heaven, Four More Shots, Please. We had Gully Boy, which is not a show, but it's a movie, and it got on
Mm-hmm.
Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we've had Family Karma. We've had
Mm-hmm.
Indian Matchmaking, Never Have
Mm-hmm.
I Ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these days, you're getting a lot more brown representation
Mm-hmm.
in media. So when I began, that was not there. It was absent.
Mm-hmm.
So the hurdle I had was I would have to audition for these roles that are very ambiguous in description, right? They weren't
Yeah.
written for South Asian artists. It wasn't a South Asian character at all, right? They would just say lead's friend, ethnically ambiguous, right? It could be whoever, right? Open ethnicity. I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, cool. So I would audition for those roles, and typically those were basically modeled after whatever the tone of the film was. And I think what they were looking for as casting directors was, could this character be the ethnicity of the actor, right? Rather
Mm-hmm.
than we need an actor of so and so ethnicity to tell this story. They went from the open approach. So the
Nice.
competitive market was much larger, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Because everybody that was already an actor who had a large body of work, they would
Yeah.
audition for the leads, which were ethnically specific, and the side role, the supporting roles, which would be ethnically open. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had to basically compete against a very, very large market. And there
Yeah.
weren't any Telugu films being shot in America at the time for,
Yeah.
open to the younger non-professional audiences and cast and crew. So it wasn't the easiest. I pretty much had to scavenge for work. But
Yeah.
after doing that for about a year, 2 years, and then starting to create my own opportunities where I start writing my own scripts and shooting them,
Mm-hmm.
it got much, much easier as
Mm.
the sort of diversity and the market just kind of found South Asian stories more interesting. Now I'm
Yeah.
at a point where I'm auditioning regularly for either Indian specific roles, which they're like, yeah, we definitely need an Indian to play this character,
Right.
or finding myself having an easier time playing those open ethnicity roles.
Do you feel like those Indian specific roles are often kind of token characters? Like, oh, they ask you to play a doctor
Okay,
or, an IT guy or something like that?
so stereotyping slash typecasting is a very interesting conversation that we're going to have where
Mm.
if you come from, let's just take this completely blank slate human, right, that doesn't have an in-depth understanding of any culture, right,
Mm-hmm.
there are common trends that exist between subcultures of people that are often like associated to a specific group of people.
Yeah.
So when you have to portray that, yeah, there are tons of roles that are typecast and stereotypes. My hope is that through shows like Never Have I Ever, we kind of break that like initial conversation, get into a more nuanced storytelling perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when you kind of see these shades in Made in Heaven, which are really taboo topics to be showcasing, and they're not typical issues that are shown,
Mm-hmm.
but they're still issues to be talked about. And I want that to be more common.
Nice. Okay. No, you bring up a very good point. Yeah. So, you also talked about Telugu movies being shot in America, with Telugu American population being one of the fastest growing
Hmm.
populations, and the most being if not one of the most profitable
Hmm.
markets for TFI or Telugu film industry. What has your experience been like being a Telugu American trying to get into the Telugu film industry, who seems, from my perspective, kind of very tight knit and closed? Like, how's that experience been like?
So that's a really interesting conversation. I think people want to film the way Hollywood films.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a foreign concept when somebody's like, oh yeah, Tollywood, Bollywood is Tollywood, Bollywood, and then Hollywood is a completely different level. But why, right? Like, why are we intentionally separating woods from woods? Films are films, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we
Yeah.
if we address it from that perspective, then the shooting techniques, some of the methodologies, whether it's pre-production or post, however, whatever cameras you choose to shoot with, whatever other equipment you choose to shoot with, the
Mm-hmm.
stories you tend to tell, the structure of them, all of those become nothing is safe from being criticized, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the fascination with Telugu movies trying to be shot here. They're like, okay, we want that type of visual aspect to the film, right? We want
Mm.
them to be shot at a higher quality. We don't want to have to CGI in graphics, right? If we can
Yeah.
just do it in front of the lens natively, then it feels more real. It pulls the audience into that scenario. So
Mm-hmm.
I have been loving shorts and concept films and teasers and thrillers that are all being shot here with that Hollywood technical aspect along with the Desi storytelling narrative, like the creative
Mm.
side from like the Indian sensitivities, and
Mm-hmm.
then the technical side from the Hollywood know-how. And shout out to the team from Gutham. If you guys look up Gutham's teaser on YouTube, you'll find that film is beautiful.
Got them.
It looks amazing. Yep.
Okay. And it's not out yet. It's just a teaser right
No,
now.
yeah, it's just the teaser that's out right now.
Okay. I'm stoked. Okay. All right. I will check that out for sure. All right. Um, and having started this platform, I've met so many young, budding, like, Telugu, Telugu American actors who are trying to get into this.
Right.
And many of the conversations, especially with the younger generation, some of the um, younger millennials or Gen Z, whatever you want to call it, like,
Right.
what was the conversation at home for you like when you said, like, you know what, this is what I want to do? But I know that you come from a creative background.
Right. So my conversation at home was done in multiple parts, and it was just kind of like me saying, "Hey, mom, I want to try acting as a hobby," and they
Hmm.
were like, "Ugh, you can't even drive, so we're gonna have to make time for you to get to where you need to go."
Okay.
Again, I started really young, right? Um, compared to most of the market. So they would drive me to my acting classes wherever they were, and then if I needed to get a set, when I needed to work, that was at a point when I already had my license. So I would just say, hey, I'm going to go to work or I'm going to go to an audition. Now, keeping in mind, I was in college at the time, and my parents were also super conservative, and they're like, let's not do this too much. You need to focus on your school. So there were times that I was like, hey, mom, I'm gonna go to the library and study for 6 hours, and they're like, sure, go for it. And so I would, at the time, there was no Life 360. So I would tell them, hey, I'm going to go study for 6 hours. And I'd drive 3.5 hours down to Austin, do an audition, and then call them and be like, hey, I'm going to be about 2 hours late. They're going to be like, sure, that's fine. And then I'd drive home. Right.
Oh shit.
There
Okay.
were, there were multiple instances like that. And then I think the first time they started taking this whole idea of acting seriously was when I showed up on TV during a football game.
Okay.
Yeah. The first
The
time they
the
saw,
commercial?
yeah, there was a commercial that was playing while
Yeah.
my family was watching football, and they were
Yeah.
like, "Hey, that's you. And I was like, yep.
Did that.
Yep.
Sick.
So
Okay.
yeah, then they started taking this whole passion of mine very seriously. They're like, okay, obviously he wants to do this, so like let him have his little fun, right?
Yeah.
Obviously still focus on school, but then let him have his fun. And I think now like I've convinced them to believe in me with,
Hmm.
my love for film and how much I've accomplished in my, period of time doing it. So
I
yeah,
think I think that's so awesome. And it really echoes kind of what Deepak Reddy said on our interview. It's like,
right,
don't wait for permission or somebody to give you an opportunity, but
right,
like make your own opportunity. And I feel like that, like when you do it out of your own willingness, when you create that opportunity for yourself, when you chase after it by yourself, people will recognize. And whether that's parents or other people in TFI or whatever industry,
right.
so I think that's so, so important in all walks of life, not just acting, um, but yeah. Let's see here.
What's been going on in the chat? I honestly haven't been watching this, so this is going to be
Yeah,
interesting.
no, 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 for sure. We've had a lot of awesome Navya K, my boy Anil, love you, Anaya.
Shout out to
Anil
the
the hair
Chetly.
though. And
Yeah, I'm
then
sorry. I had a bad hair day. I was wearing a hat all day,
bad
so
hair day, my ass, dude. It's flowing. That's great.
stop.
Um, um, my fiance here, your experience with language reminds me that when I was little, I asked my parents why I couldn't understand Sun TV Tamil, but I could understand regular Tamil, aka now I know it's poetic versus colloquial.
Oh,
That's
dude, and old MGR films, man.
mhm.
Those were also a thing that I love. I didn't understand Tamil at the very very beginning of me getting into Tamil film.
Yeah,
But now I kind of get a little bit of it because of my history, just like watching movies with subtitles and
yeah,
things like that.
definitely.
Yeah. It's the same thing, right? There's classic Tamil and then conversational Tamil.
Yeah. And let's see. Up until now, it's been one-dimensional representations, only stereotypes. So you address that.
Yep.
And let's see what else we got here. Um, I like when I see more Indians on screen where the person just happens to be Indian. Usually those actors by default are white. Why? We live in a multicultural world. Remove white as descriptors, and let's write our own shows. Yeah.
Okay, so I think this is really interesting in terms of when you're writing, right? When you're writing, let's just say you write a small scene, right? And you're
Mm-hmm.
writing a character who has a problem, right? They
Mm-hmm.
have a conflict, right? The purpose of writing is to show conflict and how someone resolves that conflict. So that character typically has a look
Mm-hmm.
that the writer, right, is creating. So
Yeah.
maybe it's because of that predisposition that in the moment of creating the initial conflict itself, it's already predisposed to a specific look, that it just kind of goes in that order. Because it's just like, I already imagine this as like a Caucasian person or an African American person or an Indian person, whatever the case may be. That's more of a conversation for the writer, which is why I think when there are brown shows produced, the
Mm-hmm.
writers who are brown, they're just like, okay, I already know what these characters look like, and I've lived interacting with these characters, right? People who represent these characters. So let's just cast somebody like that, right?
Yeah.
Now, coming to diversity and multiculturalism, you know, I could name a couple of people that I've danced with on the Bhangra circuit who definitely are not Indian, right? Let
Mm-hmm.
alone aren't Punjabi, let alone Indian, right?
Yeah.
So that begins to change the conversation. Hopefully, we start to see more representation in that sort of diaspora. But we're still a little whiles from there, and I'm not trying to rush anything. But whenever I create my shows, I do try to bring as much truth to it in my writing as my life has had. It's just I don't blame the writers. Let's just leave it there. I don't blame the writers for having a
Mm.
specific look in mind.
Mm. Interesting. Okay. Um, do you um do you think that oh man, I lost my train of thought. I
That's all right.
apologize.
That's all
Uh,
right.
no, no, no. But okay, let me just move on to the next question.
Okay.
It'll come to
If
me.
it comes
My
back,
bad.
we'll address it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what? are we? What is something that you wish somebody told you at the beginning of your acting career? Or
Ooh, go harder, right?
go.
Um,
Yeah.
my only, I think, regret with the career is that I didn't take it as seriously as I do now when I first began. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't start creating my own content. I didn't start writing my own characters and writing my own material until much, much later. And I think that if I could go back and tell my younger self, hey, don't be afraid to just start writing, for better or for worse. Write something really, really crappy, right? But write.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process of writing something crappy over and over again, you eventually stop writing as crappy because you identify the faults, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get to a point where I messed up so many times. There's no other way I could do it wrong again. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's the opinion I have now. So I'm not afraid of my failures. If I fail at an attempt of doing something, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
perfectly okay because that's a learning experience. I want to fail so much so that at the end of the day, success is my only option, and that's why I'm in this for the long haul. I'm willing to be knocked down as many times as I'm willing to get up. So
Mm.
it's just go harder, and don't be afraid of failure.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Let's see what else people are saying. Sid said, "Would Anil gotta be able to get us Telugu people a discount at Kroger Gas? He'll know what it means."
Sid,
Okay. Okay.
so Sid the King, that he is truly, truly an amazing friend and a incredible creative and inspiration in his own right.
Oh,
He
definitely.
does so many interesting collabs and just the finest quality of art.
Yeah.
This man is also equally as talented as an artist as he is, the biggest goofball you'll ever met.
Yeah.
And
No.
you'll ever meet. I can
Yeah.
English. I can English. The
Yeah.
biggest goofball you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
And yes, depends on which Kroger gas station and how popular I
Let's see what else. I don't blame the writers, but I think writers should be able to be proactive in pushing the normalization of whiteness we see on screen, because the problems people face can be faced by so many.
am. Agree.
If a if a writer's gut reaction is to make them white, I say challenge that, check in, and ask why that came to mind first.
Well,
Um,
for sure. For
yeah.
sure. I think that, whenever you're writing a story and it could be open to any ethnicity,
Hmm.
um, typically you label it, right? Open ethnicity. That's why those rules exist in that breakdown.
Yeah.
But if the writer like it's not a subconscious decision. I think it's like if they consciously want it to be a specific ethnicity, they'll put it down, right?
Hmm.
If they're just like, sure, it could be anything, it could be whatever. Let's just see what kind of talent we have in the local pool, right?
Hmm.
Then they'll say open ethnicity.
Yeah.
And I think it comes back to just, the protogenesis of all of this is just the writer, right? The person who
Yeah.
originates the story.
No,
Um,
definitely.
so I agree. I agree that, anybody could face the same conflict in the story.
Hmm.
But, for whatever one of 10,000 different reasons, if they chose to choose a specific ethnicity, then that's their prerogative. And I don't
Hmm.
necessarily want to push against that because there will
Definitely.
be stories that are very specific to us. And
Hmm.
hopefully we will be the ones that tell them.
Yep, definitely. Lavanya Ande is asking, Anil, when are we seeing you on the big screen?
Ooh, I don't know. That's the most confident answer I can give you.
Okay, awesome. Um, Brown Man 15 also, Anil, have you already seen any of Mohan's work? If so, what's your opinion on it?
Ooh,
Uh,
Mohan. All right. So, Mohan is one of my friends. He's also a very active member on Subtle Telugu Traits, and he is an aspiring writer-director. I think he
yep.
has a really, really interesting perspective. He's bringing something new and something fresh to the game.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see that result in a product, right? Result in either a short or a feature or a sizzle
Mm-hmm.
reel or something. He
Yeah.
has an interesting perspective. He just needs to grab a camera and get it made.
Right. No, and I think he was telling me he has something cooking, so I'm looking forward to see what he comes up with.
As am I.
Um,
As am I.
yeah, and but he's one of the guys. I love talking to him. I love seeing his passion.
Yep.
And I'm just waiting for the guy to bloom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but Subhash Amisetti has sent in some questions. Subhash, thank you so much for being a supporter of the show. He's always like tuning in, participating, engaging. I really appreciate you, brother. He said, at this moment, at this moment in your life, what is stopping you from taking that next step?
Ooh. If I'm going to give you the answer that everybody in the industry is going to tell you, it's funding. The big F word is the big stopgap to everybody, right? If you don't have the money to make the idea or the experimental film that you want to make, it's just not going to happen, right? So what I'm doing right now is something called resource filmmaking, where essentially you take a stock and inventory of all the talent you have available to you. You take a stock and inventory of all the locations, the crew members, everything, right? And you start creating a story basically in that environment, right? So like if you have access to, let's just say your dad owns a business, like a formal area of business, and you could write a story in that location. If your dad's friend owns a convenience store, you can write something there. A hotel, you could do a hotel story. So it's largely predicated upon, you know, what you have within your network and what means you have of lowering the cost of making the story. So yeah, the biggest limitation across the entire industry, not just me, is funding.
Okay, cool. And next we have a question from Vinita, the Rowdy Rani. I don't know if you've checked out that
yes,
podcast.
I have. Yes, I have.
She's also an aspiring actress, from what she tells me. What's the impact you hope to make with your presence in film?
Ooh, very big, heavy question. The impact I hope to make is I want people to not be afraid to chase something artistic. Right? I think we as a culture have basically been put in a position where everything STEM is heralded as like, oh, okay, this is cool, that's normal. And then when it's like an artistic thing, they're like, oh, that's fresh, that's new. But like, it's really risky. Yeah, sure, it is risky, but that's also dependent upon how willing you are to stay for the long run. If you're like, oh, I want to be in it for 5 years, and if I don't make it, I want out, right? Just don't even spend the 5 years here, right? You never know when your big break is going to come, so you have to do this knowing good and well that it may take 20, 25 years for you to really pop and be like a household name. So if you're not delusional with your expectations, then please, by all means, we need more South Asians in this industry, because there's so many stories that are going untold and so many like performances that are left undone because we don't have the right talent here. So take that risk if that's what you want to do. Come collaborate with us, hang out with us, have conversations. Let's create something, right? That's what I want.
Awesome. I'm also fanboying a little because Ikwak Burji Classics is on this list.
Let's go.
I mean, Classics, Ikwak, you have been a sort of legend in the South Asian community. He says, long live Anil Singh, that Dadi shall remain fearless. He is an example for all of us. Man, this is just high praise, dude. Also,
this
he's
is a
damn
legend.
handsome. I know. Damn handsome South Indian who Jummars better than most Punjabis.
Oh,
wow.
Man,
compliment to the max. I'll be creating a score when Anil Singh walks into the room. Please do. And I cannot wait for that to drop, because this man just drops hits after hits after hits.
This is recorded, right? This is gonna get
this
uploaded.
is recorded.
I want this on the record.
I mean I'm reading his thing, man. Like, unfortunately the chat won't be recorded, but
no,
this
you're
is
fine.
this has been I'm fanboying a little, and I'm fanboying for you. This is awesome.
You know, when we start talking about people who have inspired me to really bring the American culture and the Telugu culture, or just Desi culture in general, together, Classics is one of those guys who inspired me to do it, because his music drives me. When I'm writing, I'm listening to his music. When I'm driving, I'm listening to his music. His understanding of how to merge two different cultures is so refined that I hope to emulate in my performances or in the stories that I write, the same exact ratio and blend of both identities as Classics does with his music. So this is high praise from a legend, and I dude, the new bar of expectations is risen.
This is for sure. And I think for me it was a 2007 DRP performance at B.O.B. Best of the Best.
Hmm.
That was my first performance that I saw countless number of times, and not only that performance, that mix like was just like legendary, and I was
Right.
like that Batua mix that he made was just like fire, and then like ever since then, just like like scavenging on BTF wherever I can find like
Hmm.
samples of his stuff, and then
Hmm.
like I don't know, somebody would pass along like stuff that they got like that
Right.
leaked from his laptop or something, and like but his mixtapes have just been awesome classics. Thank you so much for everything that you do. I appreciate you, huge fan over here, but
Huge fan on both sides here.
yeah, that's great. Um, uh, so that's kind of the questions I have from the people, but the last question I have for you is, what is your, in your opinion, what is the best worst movie that you've ever seen?
The best worst movie that I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. So this is going to be an interesting answer. Follow me here. There is a
Mm-hmm.
Karti movie. It was originally in Tamil. I don't know the Tamil name off the top of my head, but the Telugu name is Yuganikokkadu, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh
And
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
when I first watched it, I was like, this is so not organized well. Like I don't understand the order of the shots. I don't understand what story they're telling. They were telling three different stories all at once. And then I watched it a second time and I was like, wait, there's some nuance here. There's
Mm-hmm.
some big picture ideas here. I watched it a third time and I was like, this is probably
Mm-hmm.
the most ambitious project in terms of like just what kind of thesis statement you're making about humans in general.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yo, this was an exceptional concept. And now I regularly rewatch that film when it comes to like, do I embody this idea of what am I saying, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
there is incredible rewatch value in that film, and I completely underestimated and undermined the value of the project when I first watched it because I was just far too confused with what was going on in that film.
Yeah. I am I'm with you on that one actually. It is, I actually know the movie and I've seen it three times, which is really odd that like because when I watched it I wasn't like in love with it. I was
Mm-hmm.
also just as confused as you were, I guess, like but like it's like there's something about this that
Mm-hmm.
is making me come at it again, but like the scope of that was really ambitious, and that was a really interesting answer. That's not something I was expecting. But
I appreciate that. I appreciate
yeah,
that.
yeah. And somebody has a question for you. If someone has a script and wants to reach out to you for suggestions and direction, how can we get a hold of you?
Oh man. So contacting me personally is super, super easy. I perpetually live on Facebook and Instagram. I just live on social media at this point. I'm really bad at posting on social media, but I'm always on my phone.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, just you could Facebook, you can, Instagram me. I'm pretty sure my official work email is also tied to the Instagram. So if you want to do like an email chain, the email chain is also up there.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Okay.
that would be the best way to contact me. And I'll give you all the help that I have.
Yeah,
That's not to say like I'm an award-winning writer slash director slash producer,
yeah.
right? So let's lower the expectation a little. But yeah, I'm definitely here to help in any way that I can.
Awesome, awesome. So what's next for you, man? What are you working on? What can we see you in? How can people connect with your content?
So I did a show called Fabletown, and those
Yeah.
episodes are still slowly kind of working their way out. So if you
Mm-hmm.
follow Fabletown the movie, the ads are all on the Fabletown post on my Instagram feed. If you want to go
Yep,
ahead and
yep.
follow those. The next episodes that you're going to see, you might find a familiar face. Wink, wink.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Other than that, I'm continually auditioning for shows and films. So when
When
I just got a
mm-hmm.
call there, sorry.
Yeah, no
Um,
worries. Yeah.
if if I can say something, I will. But a lot of these projects are under wraps, so I don't know what I can say now.
Mm-hmm.
On the Telugu front, I also can't say any details, but just know that there are some interesting news is kind of rumbling under the hood. So go ahead and follow my social media, or
I like
just
it.
message me, add me on Facebook, whatever you need to do,
Hmm.
wherever you prefer to consume your information, and I will be having those conversations.
I like it. I like it. Exciting stuff. Well, Anil, thank you so much, dude. Is there anything else that you wanted to share or
Follow Masalainurdosa Presents, because this show has incredible guests and incredible interviews, and there's a lot of insights that are provided in all the interviews. So hit Prithvi up if you want to be a guest on the show too. If you're a creative, also hit me up. Let's see what we can create together, because I definitely want to partake in creating some more.
awesome. Thank you so much, man, for the shout out. And we're always here to, I'm always here to support you, man. Thank you for everything that you do and, connecting me with some amazing, amazing people.
No,
Um,
definitely.
and that's it for this week. Thank you so much for everybody who's joined us and participated. Subhash actually said there's a video essay on Uganda Kokadu. Subhash, if you can DM me that link, I would really appreciate that. I'd be really interested to watch that. But so yeah, thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate it. Next weekend, we have a really awesome guest, Divya Bala. She's a yoga instructor based
Cool.
out of Oakland. And I met her on ABCD Yogi. Check out that IG account. They kind of talk about representation in yoga, how talking about the effects of colonialization
Hmm.
in yoga and the westernization that even us as South Asian have kind of embraced unknowingly. So
Hmm.
some really interesting perspectives there. Excited to have have her on board. But yeah, thank you guys so much, Anil. Thank you so much. Chala chala dhanyavadalu. I'm gonna watch Danavira Sodakanna now.
Let's
Uh,
go.
yeah, but yeah. All right, man.
All right.
Thank you guys. Thank you, everybody. Have a
Thanks,
great
guys.
weekend.
You too.